Hi everyone, I'm Florian Puhani, and the exercise variation I'm gonna show you in this video is inspired by Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guy. I've linked his respective video in the description. He is a big proponent of seated good mornings, which, as you can see, he likes to load up with dumbbells. So I thought, why not make it a sandbag instead? It will force you to start with the back of your hands on the floor, which will gain you a bit more range of motion after all. And when I tested this variation, I got curious how it would feel to pull the sandbag the whole way up to my lap. It turned out it felt much more satisfying than sticking to the limited ROM Ben Patrick is using. Wrapping out the bottom half of the movement may be super beneficial for several reasons. But getting the sandbag to your lap feels like a real accomplishment. Now, as soon as I sat on the box with the sandbag on my lap, adding a box squat just seemed like the natural thing to do. So one thing led to another, and the end result was a box squat variation with greater range of motion, hence the video title, and also greater emphasis on the lower back. This is how you perform it. Sit down with your ischial tuberosities very close to the edge of the box. By the way, if there is a more colloquial term for these, please tell me in your comment below, because the online dictionaries I use don't offer any. Literally translated from German, it would be sitting bone knobs or sitting bone humps. Anyway, sitting close to the edge will help you keep the sandbag clear of the box on the way up. Normally, when you pick up a sandbag, you bring your own gravity center closer to that of the sandbag by raising your hips. Not doing that, however, is exactly what makes this variation special. What you can and should do instead is what Olympic weightlifters always do, which is completely flatten your lower back, like you see me do ad nauseam in this 1-second loop, and also shrug and protract your shoulders to some degree. How much exactly depends on the length of your arms in proportion to the length of your torso. This technique will also bring your gravity center a bit more to the front, enabling you to lift the sandbag off vertically instead of pulling it into the box. Otherwise, I very much doubt you would be able to complete the lift with any weight mentionable. Yeah, about the weight, you definitely won't be able to perform this exercise with anything close to your 1 rep max to shoulder sandbag. And at first that might feel like kind of a drawback. I know it did to me. But when you think about it, both compound and isolation exercises have their unique purposes. Neither type is intrinsically better or worse. This variation keeps your quads out entirely and also your hamstrings for the most part because you keep them pre-shortened in the knees. So compared to the standing lift to the lap, it is less of a compound and more of an isolation exercise, namely isolating the glutes in the lower extremity and also shifting the focus more to the spinal erectors in the torso. And these restrictions take their toll, of course. But especially if your lower back has given you trouble in the past, bulletproofing it like that, using a lighter than usual weight might be exactly what it needs. The beautiful thing here is that you don't even have to force yourself to keep your back flat. It will occur naturally, because otherwise, without your quads, the sandbag won't even budge. Now, of course, that also bears high potential for cheating by lifting your butt off the box. The problem I have with that is pretty much the same as in an incline bench press. It's not dangerous or anything, it just turns the exercise into a completely different variation of it. If you raise your hips on an incline bench, why not use a flat bench in the first place? Likewise, feel free to stand up from the box for the lift to the lap if you have to. This video, however, is about deliberately not doing that. Sitting on the box isn't only limiting the weight of the sandbag, but also its length and your options of picking it up. At least for me, trying to pick up an elongated sandbag vertically or upright always ended prematurely with the sandbag colliding with the box. If you have really great hip mobility, especially in your adductors, you can straddle your legs really far apart and try a horizontal pick. It will be super challenging in any case, but with a really long sandbag I think it's the only chance you've got. So, as a rule of thumb, A seated lift to the lap is a job for a shorter, stubbier or more roundish sandbag of submaximal weight. If your sandbag, unlike my dear QB here, has one clearly longer dimension at all, I recommend you go for the horizontal pick. This will enable you to wedge the sandbag in with your thighs earlier and with more force, which really is the functional thing to do here. To avoid abrasions on your inner thighs, I recommend you wear jeans of at least knee length. If you have already experimented with different box squat modifications yourself, you may have noticed one undesirable phenomenon. Resting with the sandbag on the box instead of your lap can make you draw out your sessions unnecessarily if you're doing rest-pause sets. That's because even after you have completely caught your breath again, you have no real motivation to go on, unlike when the sandbag is crushing your thighs. Now, I don't believe the same goes for the sandbag resting between your feet on the floor. At least as long as you are relatively new to this exercise variation, there will come a point when you won't be able to get the sandbag to your lap again, even after a full minute of rest time or more. But still, if you think you are wasting too much time sitting around, there's an easy solution for that. Just make your lap the starting and end point of the movement. Start by slowly letting the sandbag down to the floor between your legs, pull it up again, do the box squat, and then rest. Conversely, if so far the sandbag crushing your legs has always been the limiting factor of your performance, with the sandbag on the floor, you now have an alternative most likely limited by true muscular failure instead. By the way, there is also a chance your bear hug strength may become the limiting factor if you hold the sandbag horizontal during the box squat, which I recommend you do. Sure, you can upend the sandbag on your lap if you have to, but why not also focus on your hands apart grip? And if you really just care about strengthening your lower back, you can ditch the box squats entirely and just do the seated sandbag good mornings for reps. I bet this will also carry over and improve your standing lift to the lap. Also, if you use a sandbag of a length for which you have to straddle your legs rather wide, the seated good mornings will also improve your hip mobility by stretching your adductor muscles. And that's all I got. If you have any further questions about this exercise variation, please ask them in your comments below. Thanks for watching. My name is Florian and I'll continue to make an effort so that you don't get bored with your training.